Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity. Hello and welcome to another exciting, fantastic, and way cool episode of BIM Thoughts. We have the ever popular, the wonderful, the person who knows everything about Dynamo, Dana DeFilippi. We also have Carl Storms, who knows about just about everything. He's the man who wears many hats, but mostly the hat he wears. We're also joined by Tiffany Willard. Hello, Tiffany.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. So, define yourself.
Oh, I thought maybe you would ask this question. So I'll define myself, and then I'll definitely tell you a little bit more about my role at Eaglepoint Software. So, Bill, I think I would define myself as perpetually curious, adventurous, active, lifelong learner, a Christian, and my life motto is to live life to the fullest.
Well, there you go. And looking at your LinkedIn, you're from Iowa.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the tri-state area. So Eaglepoint is headquartered in Dubuque, Iowa. I
Okay.
grew up in Illinois my entire life, and
Wow.
I just moved to the fabulous state of Wisconsin about 3 years ago.
Yeah. So there you have it. Eaglepoint, you guys do training stuff.
We do, yes.
Mhm.
Eaglepoint has been around since 1983.
Mm.
And the company had really
It's older than me.
evolved. Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I tell the story about how the company has come to be. It's like, where were you in 1983?
Where was I in 1983? In 1983, I was in the 8th grade.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good year. I loved 80s hair bands. I mean,
Yeah, well, how can you go wrong? Of course, now I can't be in a hair band if I wanted to.
but yeah. So John Beaver,
Uh-huh.
one of the original co-founders, started Eaglepoint. He's an engineer by trade. Quit his job to start a software company.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole thought, and still to this day, is we have to do things better, faster, more efficient, more accurate. So some people might still think of Eaglepoint, of some of our legacy software that was completely discontinued. But back in the mid 2000s, it was really kind of a features war,
Mm-hmm.
putting in new features. And, the company made a lot of money doing on-site training, but so often, even though our trainers are fantastic, you'd leave there and, people wouldn't apply it, they'd forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where the light bulb moment came on. And in 2006, Pinnacle Series came to market. And it's really more than just training or e-learning, because no matter how well, again, whether it's live or an e-learning type platform, people can't remember everything. So when they're in a production mode, they're sitting in front of their computer trying to get their work out the door. We also provide workflow documentation, contextual learning that's inside of the Autodesk products. So it's really designed to be, yes, a learning, and you can take it for learning. Your manager can assign training, you can learn it, they can track it, all of those things. But what's really been always important is, how can we make sure that we're applying what we learn so that you are more productive, more accurate, there's less errors and omissions. So
Absolutely. And Pinnacle is one of the services my day job was looking at for online training.
I heard that. Yeah, I
Yes.
heard you guys were checking that out. That's
I'm checking
awesome.
it out. And I tried a couple classes. Pretty good. I like the fact that it has more than just Autodesk products in it.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of that has been driven by our clients' request. One of the great things about Eaglepoint that I love, it makes my job as a salesperson way easier, is that we have engineers, architects, construction specialists working in-house developing the content. We have programmers. So we take feedback from our clients and really build out our content library. So there's reasons why we go down in certain directions,
Mm-hmm.
and people are tired of having an app for this, an app for that, a subscription for this, a subscription for that. So we've included Adobe, Microsoft, health and safety, business management, um, BIMTrack.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Carl knows about BIMTrack.
I do.
You're right on track with that.
I do, and I certainly know about the Pinnacle series as well from my Imagine It days, as we used it as we were a reseller there as well. So I can
Imagine
certainly
that.
stand behind the benefits that Tiffany's talking about for what it can do, and the fact that you really get benefit from it, again, not just from the Autodesk products, but the fact that it has all of the products. And
Mm-hmm.
shameless plug, for example, on the BIMTrack side, we have some content in there to walk you through how to use the BIMTrack product. It's a
Mm-hmm.
user-friendly interface, so it's not something that takes you a long time to learn. But if you're new to Navisworks, or if you're new to Revit, or you're not really sure how clash detection works, well, you can watch a module on the BIMTrack clash detection, and then you can watch a module on Navisworks clash detection, and you can sort of tie it two together. So as Tiffany was saying, with those workflow documents, it allows you to pull everything together in a way that allows you to get the information that you want, understand it, and move on. And if it's been a minute since the last time you use it, you can have that quick refresher and be in place. So it really does let you sort of learn in your way, but learn relevant stuff.
True story. And I was just meeting with our marketing team, and they're like, what are the must have skills for 2021?
Right.
And like my knee jerk reaction was Dynamo, generative design, computational design. Yes. If your
Mm-hmm.
firm is not figuring out how you can incorporate that, like you need to figure that out sooner than
Mm-hmm.
later. And it's not as, when you guys can speak to this because you're specialists in the space, but it doesn't have to be as complex and grandiose as some people kind of think that it is. I mean, you can just figure out how to um, have menial tasks done in a click of a button.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the thing I've learned about learning, imagine that, is like with Dynamo. A lot of people want to learn Dynamo, but they don't know what they want Dynamo to do. So they'll sit down and they'll try to learn Dynamo, and it really won't click until they really have a project that they want to do in Dynamo. And once you get a project in Dynamo, then you can jump onto whatever e-learning platform you've got and take the first class on it to get the terminology down and get how that works, and then start digging in and learn Dynamo to do what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people learn that way too.
Mm-hmm.
It's project-based learning. I need to learn
Right.
this and I need to apply it, and it sticks more too.
Mm-hmm. It does stick more. I had an opportunity to learn Power Apps, and well, not inside of Teams. So using the creating stuff inside of Teams, we sat down and started to do the introductions and all that. And I said, well, let's wait a minute here. I really don't have a project that I want to do with this. Yeah, I want to learn this and I want to get good at it and do some great things, but let's wait until I've got something to do. Otherwise, it's not going to stick.
Yeah, well, and sometimes it's good to get that high level overview so at least
Mm-hmm.
you know that something is out there,
Right.
even if you don't learn all the particulars or remember every single step, at least
Mm-hmm.
you know. And that's one thing we hear from clients where it's like, especially some of the large construction firms that we're working with, they're like, somebody's doing some off the wall thing. And it's like, well, why aren't you using this? We have this. Like, and they
Mm-hmm.
had no idea that the company even had the technology and that it could do X, Y, and Z.
Right. So I've got one more question, then I'm going to hand it over to Dana. She's got a question. I know that. But my question is, when you're looking through the analytics and the stats of the training classes that you have, what is the surprise class that pops up that a lot of people are taking?
Mm, it's funny that you asked that question because I wanted to touch base with our customer success team because I think that is a really interesting question. And surprisingly enough, um, well, it's two parts. One, this is not going to be a surprise to you. Everybody's looking at BIM 360.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's still just those basic core products that people are using.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that there's a surprise training that everyone is doing,
Uh-huh.
um, just because I think that if you have somebody that's kind of a tech geek, so to speak, you still just have those one-offs.
Right.
But I can't say collectively that there's like this oddball type
Huh.
of product or type of training. What do you think? Is there something that surprised you recently that you've seen?
Rhino is taken off in our company, so a lot of people are trying to learn that. Um, no, I don't know. I don't have my finger on that pulse anymore to know. That's why I was asking, really. But no, I don't have what that cool app is that everybody wants to learn down.
Yeah, I don't know. Dana, what about you? Does your company have any kind of unique things that are off the wall?
Well, we actually just integrated Tonic. I know that one of our last podcasts we were talking about that with Jess Purcell and the integration of Tonic with emails and submittals and different things like that. But definitely the integration of Dynamo, like you were saying, I think that that being the big topic, I think that's probably been the big topic for quite a few years, especially if you've been going to the conferences, which I know Tiffany, you're always there, right? We always see you there.
Oh yeah.
But no, I mean, I think it totally aligns with what you guys were saying in the Eaglepoint philosophy, right? How to do things more efficiently, how to do things, with less error. And that totally ties with that, right? How can we create a script where you just press a button and you know that you're not going to get any manual transcription errors or anything like that? So I'm right on board with that philosophy. I've always been the type to get in the zone with whatever I'm creating and almost create an assembly line, if you will, just making it the most efficient that I can.
Hmm.
But one thing that I've been always really intrigued about with Eaglepoint software is the customization of it from the client or company standpoint, right? I mean, you can
Mm-hmm.
really create, can you talk to that? Maybe the dashboards and what have you, as how as companies can make this unique for their users in terms of, hey, we really want you to learn Dynamo, or maybe, we just integrated Power BI. Do you guys have any
Hmm.
resources on those types of technologies?
We do, yeah. So I think you kind of touched on a few things. So there's widgets, so you can really change the interface to, customize it, brand it to your organization. Um, but the customization piece, I think, is key because that's really, Pinnacle Series at the end of the day was developed to solve three key pain points. One being knowledge management. So everyone talks, well, I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people talk about, oh, we should document that, we should write that down. And nobody has time. And depending on the company size, maybe you're lucky and you have an organization who has dedicated a design technology manager, director, BIM leads that's their job to document company standards. But if you have a dual role where you have project work and time to document, it's very difficult. And if you've ever documented or created a white paper, it takes a long time to do that. And so, Pinnacle Series, out of the box, you get pre made workflows, cheat sheets, documentation, videos. And to your point, Dana, you get to customize everything. So, you could just copy down what we have out of the box, tweak it, and now it's company specific. So, instead of spending hours and hours and hours, you spent a fraction of the time, and now you have a company specific piece of content so that when your team members, your end users are going to search for answers, they're finding something that's relevant to them and that they can apply immediately. And when that happens, people are more likely to go back and use it. Um, so everything's reportable. The dashboards, as a manager, you can assign training or another, I guess, feature within the product. And without showing people, it might not make sense, but you can create work groups, and work groups can be anything. It could be a collection of material that all new hires have access to. Or you can create project-specific work groups. And this is in your dashboard. So if you're on 5 different projects, you can go in and you can see all the content that's related to that and the training that's needed for it. And there's lots of reports. So I don't know if I kind of answered your question where you were thinking to go, but does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay. And then some, yeah. And I think, I mean, to that point, it's not just videos, right? I mean, of course, anybody can pay for Linda and just look through their content, but half of my job as a BIM specialist is documenting the workflows that I create or maintain or update, right? So without that piece, the workflows or the tools or that Dynamo press play idea, right? It just completely falls through. So having those types of resources at your fingertips is absolutely so useful.
Yeah. And the beauty of it is if, so let's just say you, Dana, have created hundreds of pages of content. You can drag and drop it into Pinnacle Series, and now it's keyword searchable. And there's a lot of cool functionality where you can tag. Let's say you have a white paper or a cheat sheet that's specific to something in Revit. You can tag that, so that way when and I say end user, I don't know what the proper term that you guys like to use, teammates, your professionals, they go in and they click on that specific command in Revit, and now it's contextual learning, and it's going to present to them a customized document, how-to guide on how to do something. And I would say one of the reasons people are gravitating towards Pinnacle is because, specific in this customization piece, other resources are hard to update and they're not easily searchable. So SharePoint sites kind of have a bottleneck where they're sending information to IT and it's not getting updated, or end users are trying to search, they can't find it. Or another issue is
you put a space in BIM 360 or no space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. There's like no real tagging in SharePoint that's like real great.
And then SharePoint is really good at adding those weird characters like that big long dash in file names. You're like, where the heck that
dash
go?
where every space is.
Right. Or %20.
But no, I think especially when we think about, the SharePoint kind of atmosphere that we've been forced into, right? I mean, we've kind of lost the idea of what a network is. Do we really need a network at this point?
Yeah, people still use networks. And now they have a SharePoint site, they have a network drive, they have Teams, like how are we figuring out Teams and channels? They're still emailing, they still have stuff saved to their desktop. And it's like there's just this ad hoc approach of information and where it lives and how to communicate it out. But sorry, Dana, I kind of cut you off there.
No, I think that's exactly it. You wrapped it up exactly. I think that's probably the biggest question that I get from my users in terms of, I found this Dynamo script. Where can I find documentation on it? And it's like, I'll just send you the Eureka or, the SharePoint link or, what have you. But for them to actually find it on their own is pretty difficult because it, like you're saying, it's kind of scattered, right?
Yep.
Right.
So being able to have the dashboard that you can just pull up. Now, is all of this kind of cloud hosted, as I would assume?
It is, yeah. Yeah, several years ago, we switched to a cloud-based application, which has made a huge difference. I think we probably would have switched over sooner, but I think just as people become more accepting of keeping things in the cloud, I think there was a lot of resistance to just companies in the space of, and I still talk with people who are like, our management does not believe in putting things in the cloud.
Right. Well, especially, I'm in DC, so we have a lot of government projects and things like that we can't put on the cloud. But in terms of content and resources, I don't know. I'm just being sticklers.
I think online training is a perfect example of a cloud application that works.
Absolutely. So, Tiffany, what would you say is your typical feedback in terms of the favorite feature of Eaglepoint, the Pinnacle Series?
Favorite feature as of late, probably the contextual learning, because at the end of the day, it is about production, keeping people learning while billable. So when they're inside of, Civil 3D or Revit, they're clicking on commands, and that way it's also top of mind. It's right in front of you. I would say that's probably one of the favorite features. Yeah, good question. Another one you talked about, Dana, about videos that you have. You can upload a video into Pinnacle Series and it will auto transcribe your video. So now that entire video becomes keyword searchable and it will take you
No
to the right
way.
point in the video. Yeah, that's
Can
That's
you watch it
cool.
with subtitles? I am a huge subtitle watcher.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can. You can also watch
Huh.
it in over 60 languages. So you could it's like
Whoa.
Right.
Rosetta
So
Stone.
you could learn a language while learning Revit.
Yes, yes.
Or, if you have a very culturally diverse office,
Right.
right? You could have your users watch it in the language that they feel comfortable in, especially if you have an international office.
Yeah, maybe they want to watch it in Canadia.
Oh, that Canadian, it's a tough one.
That's a tough one, eh?
We had to.
I know you're all laughing with me, not at me, eh?
Yeah, eh?
Sorry, I was just gonna say one of the other things we were talking about dashboards a little bit earlier on, and the value we get from those metrics with a platform like the Pinnacle Series. You see how many people are using an app or a software or the training. But one of the cool things that you can do with it as well is you also have the ability connected up to Knowledge Smart to be able to actually test your employees. And as someone that's worked with that in a couple of previous lives, as soon as you tell an employee you're going to test them, the back gets up, the eye, they get very
Mhm.
apprehensive. But the way that we always got around it and the way that we got real value from it is we would tell people, we're not testing it to see what you missed. We're testing it to see how we can improve our training and how we can improve what you're doing. And just that subtle tweak of how you're doing it, everyone would say, okay, let's take the test on creating Revit families. And then, the next week we would do a lunch and learn on the part that people needed. And we're able to do that. And we really saw a big benefit in that platform. And of course, there's always the idea of new hires. I've been using AutoCAD for 30 years. I know everything. Okay, that's great. Here's a half-hour test. Let's just validate that, um, just to get that in place. So that's something that we always found great benefit in the platform as well.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, Carl, that's a great point because, and that is actually, and I don't know why I didn't think of that. That is another favorite feature because it's one thing to test your employees and to get a baseline understanding of where they're at, but you could take their test scores and import it into Pinnacle Series, and it will automatically assign you a custom learning path based on your test results. So maybe instead of taking, an 8-hour training class, you really only need to know 30 minutes. So we're not wasting people's time in training on stuff that they already know. But on the reverse side, let's make sure that people aren't sitting in training classes that they're totally lost. And they're confused. So yeah, having that customized training curriculum being assigned has been huge.
I'm more interested in the contextual learning in terms of it. Does it kind of work like a tool tip in a way? Like if I were hovering over, curtain wall and there was a customized video that we had tied to curtain walls. Can you explain that maybe a little bit better?
Yeah, I will do my best to describe it. So basically, it's almost like a floating toolbar that you can minimize if you're not using it. So it's down there. It doesn't take up space. So you're clicking on stuff, and you're like, oh, let me just double check. So this box pops up, and it will give you related learning topics, whether it's a written documentation or a video, and then you can click on that and it will take you into Pinnacle Series, and you'd be able to consume that information.
That's amazing. How does that how does that work with Dynamo Player, if it does at all?
At this time, it does not,
Because
but we
that
are
would be great
expanding that. Yeah.
if there was a script in there and they're like, what does this script do? And they could just almost click a little button that's, took them to all the documentation related to that tool, you know. I feel like with the push of the 2021 and learning Dynamo, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I anticipate that we're going to be adding that functionality to more titles very soon. But today, unfortunately, that does not exist with Dynamo.
Well, we will keep our eye out.
Wondering, Tiffany, how did yourself personally, as well as Eaglepoint, sort of handle not being in front of people live much of last year and probably not much of this year? Is it all webinars, or do you guys have sort of a different strategy?
Yeah, good question. We did do an event specific in construction, and we were a sponsor of that. We committed to that to be in person, and they switched it to be virtual. And I was really surprised on how they ran the event. They tried to mimic an in-person event where we were literally at our computers from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Um, I don't know how well or how much people actually stayed at their computer. I kind of felt bad for the speakers, just because there's a lot of time and investment that goes into creating that. But all in all, I would say we did do webinars. We did some virtual trade shows. We did Autodesk University, and the results was to be as expected. I just don't think you can replicate those experiences online as hard as people have tried to do so. We do anticipate doing webinars in 2022, personally from Eaglepoint. And but as far as it impacting our business, I would say that we've done more Teams meetings is what we use. We use Teams for all of our meetings, and people have just been receptive to meeting online, and it's just become a way of life.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's that for everybody, and I think my favorite takeaway from that, if you can call it that, is that now that we've been doing this for like a year, everyone's sort of come to that same consensus that there's lots of things we can do to replicate an in-person conference, but we can never replace that. And so that we're definitely going to be. It's not something that's going to go away. We're going to get back to that when we can. And man, I'm looking forward to it.
Are we placing bets on AU happening in November?
Right now, I would say it's probably 1 in 10 that it does
Oh, I
live.
don't like those. I don't like those odds.
Even if they do it live, they'll definitely have a virtual presence for sure. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, I
they'll
think
allow a very minimal amount of people to the actual conference, and then mostly it will be virtual.
Yeah, speaking of events, I actually met each of you individually. You guys probably don't remember this, but I remember it vividly. Dana, I met you at my very first RTC, and it was when the original group decided that they were going to pass the baton to a new planning group. And I swear they went out with a bang. It was in Scottsdale. It was the keynote speaker was the guy with the light up jacket.
Ashraf.
Yes.
Ashraf. I have an iPad sitting right next to me from Ashraf.
And so you probably don't remember this, but I was trying to sell you Pinnacle at that time, and we met earlier in that day, and then we went to the after party, and everybody's there, and they were doing live karaoke, and you had just come down, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how courageous this woman is to get up and do live karaoke.
It's alcohol, liquid courage.
That's still my favorite RTC of all the ones that I've been to. That Scottsdale's one, aside from the 45-degree heat, was a blast.
Oh,
The campus that was on, right? I say campus because it was a giant hotel.
Yeah.
I feel like my room was the farthest away from the conference center possible. I had to walk like forever to get there.
Yeah,
But no, that was a great event. That was a really, really fun event.
It was
and then
pretty
the lazy
magical.
river.
Yes.
The lazy river, and they had the the movie going, the Monty Python, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was great.
Yeah.
That was a great event.
That was a great event.
Yeah, Carl, I think I was introduced to you in Toronto. Fred Ortiz with P2S. I don't know if you remember him or know him, but he's like, you got to meet Carl. Everybody knows Carl. And the biggest thing I remember, I got like 5 stickers, and they're like, you got to put the stickers on your badge. Like that's like a badge of honor.
That's right.
Very true. Very true. You got to get the swag. You got to get the swag. But
The
I do remember
BIMsider
that.
swag.
Yeah.
And Bill, let's see, I've been following Bill on LinkedIn for like years.
Wow.
So when I would see you at conferences, I kind of got nervous, like you were famous to me.
Well, I'm infamous.
Bimfamous.
Bimfamous. And so I was like, finally in Seattle, which I think was the last one, Seattle,
Uh-huh.
I was like, I mustered up the courage to introduce myself to you. I think you were trying to go to the bathroom and I just
Probably.
totally cut you off. And I was like,
You
I'm
know,
going to do
that's probably
this.
when I dropped my phone in the bathroom and broke it.
Oh, no. No, you were not inside. You're not inside at this
Oh,
time.
I was outside. Okay.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
was like, introduced myself. And I remember you saying, Tiffany, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for introducing yourself. What's the best thing that happened to you this year? Like,
That's right.
and I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never been asked this by somebody that I've introduced myself to. And I had just gone to Ireland. And
Yes.
I was
Uh-huh.
like,
I remember
you know,
that.
so I explained that. And I asked you the question, I'm pretty sure you had just got a hole in one. Is that right?
I think I did. Yes, that was a
Yes.
pretty good day.
Oh, so good. And
Yeah.
I remember walking away. I was like, you know, people don't remember you for who you are. They remember you for how you made them feel. And I
Right.
was like, I will forever remember Bill. Like,
We'll
that was
see.
just so magical.
Thank you for that.
You have a very vivid memory, Tiffany.
Oh, sometimes.
Especially a night of karaoke. I can't remember anything.
I'm just glad I decided not to climb up on those like sheets from hanging down from the ceiling. Like I was so tempted just to be like, I feel like I
Uh-oh.
could do that. Like,
No.
Oh yeah, there were the Lyra dancers there. That's
yes.
right.
Oh, really?
That's right.
I missed
oh my
that.
goodness. That was really cool.
Where was that at?
That was
the
at the
after
event
party.
where
Yeah.
where the Katy Perry
Oh, I didn't go to that. I
karaoke.
wasn't feeling well at Scottsdale, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't make it to that. I wasn't feeling well that day.
Well, Tiffany, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I was just looking through some of my notes on things that I thought maybe would make sense for us to touch base on. And, you know, when I think about, you know, Pinnacle Series for the AEC professionals, like, you know, why Eaglepoint, why Pinnacle Series? I think it comes down to the fact that we do serve this market instead of having, you know, every type of training under the sun. It's very specific to this space. I would also say our customer success team is just wildly important. They really are advocates for the client to help them reach their goals and initiatives. I don't know. What other final questions do you guys have for me?
Hmm.
I'm still just thinking about that Scottsdale after party.
That was a good time.
Such a good time. Let's see, Carl, I think you said one thing to make sure that I remind you where you can find us. Eaglepoint.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all those places. You can certainly give us a call directly.
Well, thank you very much, Tiffany, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
It has been fun, and I hope to do it again one time soon, and hope to see everybody at a conference sometime real soon.